Right, so it's been a bit of a change of plan up here in the loft, mainly centred around budget. We've not left ourselves a great deal of budget for this project, but we really want to push on and get it done. So with a shoestring budget, one way to save money was to deal with the plastering. Now ordinarily, like the rest of the rooms in the house, we had a plasterer come in and do all the skimming. I could do the smaller walls and bits myself, but it would end up pretty rustic, and you know, I'd rather get someone in if we were going that route. But you know, that soon adds up. By the time we've got the materials, it's going to take 2 days for the plasterer and his labourers for this room, set of rooms. It's going to be 600 quid probably. So I could have used tapered edge plasterboard, done drywalling and done all the joints. And I've done that in a couple of places in the house, just on internal sort of small walls in the bedrooms, but I'm never that happy with how it's turned out. It looks pretty good when you do it, then you paint, and in the wrong light, you can make out where the joins are, and that's just my ability at doing it really. So I've decided that I'm going to come up with a slightly different route. I've gone ahead and filled all these screw holes that you see, and they need to be rubbed back. So we haven't gone too far away from normal dry lining, in that we've still got all that work to do. But where the joins are, I have specifically put joins where I want them to be, so we can put in some timbers. So I'll give you a bit of a wider shot and you can get an idea of what the plan is. So what my plan is where I've left these joins, and they're specifically ending up obviously on the rafters, but also in places where I want some timbers to be. I'm actually going to put some woodwork back up on these, screwed all the way through the plasterboard, the 50mm of insulation into our actual rafters, which will give us the effect of having an exposed rafter. Now they won't be as regular as all the main rafters, but they'll be every metre or 1 metre 10. So with those sort of spacings, they kind of give the idea of exposed trusses, like you have in some sort of exposed sort of barn, farmhouse sort of look. So I didn't want to make it look too cliche and start putting in oak beams and peg joints and things like that, because this house, the age of it didn't have that. The roof structure that's here is simply rafters up to a ridge board, and then there was a tie beam which was simply nailed to the sides of the rafters, and then they were sat on purlins at the bottom. So there's no sort of pegged joints or anything like that. So I didn't really want to start bringing in new building techniques and have a really faux rafter look. So I'm going to put in these timbers to effectively just show what's already there, and then we'll put in a tie beam using some of the timbers I took out, some of the old timbers, and that will give us a nice sort of fairly rustic beam across the top, just a little bit lower than the tie beam which is hidden, which I think is the collar tie in the States. So that's my plan. So I'm just working out what size timbers we're going to use. They need to be wide enough so they cover the screws on both boards and the join, but I don't want them to look too wide. So I think about 75mm or just under 3 inches, which is what the main truss is made from. So if we go with that all the way up, and then we'll use these existing old timbers, which are these guys here, which are really nice old pine, and they've actually got all the holes from the old laths, and I'm hoping we can de-nail these and use those up there. All the timber is going to be whitewashed or painted white to give a really sort of nice light look up here. So I'm not too worried about having to stain and beat up the wood to match the other colour, because it's all going to be whitewashed. It's just a case of taking the new timbers and wire brushing them, banging a few holes in them, and just kind of getting them more to this. But like I said, we're on a budget, so I'm hoping that we can use some 4-inch, you know, normal structural CLS timber and still get some textured grain. So I've got a load of sanding ahead of me to knock all these back to get them nice and flat. And then I think I was going to leave it, get all the timbers up and paint it all in one hit, but Joe's quite rightly said that it'd be better to sand all these back, paint all the walls white like we're going to, ceilings white, and then put the timbers on, possibly paint the timbers off, you know, on a sawhorse, and then probably just go over with one coat to tie it all in. My only concern is that the timbers may not, we want to give the impression that they go all the way through this wall, so we need to make sure that the timber is flush to the back, but also that we either caulk it or scribe it in a way that it does marry up to the ceiling surface. And then I think just going really heavy with the paint, just to give it, I like the look of surfaces and doors and woodwork that's been painted over years and years, and it looks like there's a lot of coats of paint there. So I think by just kind of overpainting, it'll all start to blend in. So if we're going the route of getting nothing skimmed and not doing any dry lining or not doing any jointing, then we've still got some of these walls to deal with. They're still wallpapered at the moment, and these walls are going to be staying where they are. There is the intention eventually of putting a shower in here, an 800 by 800 shower with some storage behind it, with a kind of little folding glass door. So this will end up being cement board and tiles. But I think for now, especially on the exposed wall over here, I really like the look of the whitewashed planked walls, and the floor is nice pine boards. But in order to get these wide pine boards to do the wall, whether it's old scaffolding planks or old reclaimed pine or even new pine, it's pretty expensive, and it works out, I think I worked it out to something about £20 a square metre, which is too much for what I want to do. And with some of it being covered by furniture, I don't really want to start buying loads of really nice old timber that's going to be hidden. So I think I'm going to look at doing some plywood on the wall there, cut it into strips around over the corners, bit of texture on it, paint it up, and hopefully that'll be a bit of an experiment, but that will give us our whitewash panelled walls and avoid the need for any plasterboard, skimming or jointing over there. So a couple more things. We've got a counter batten across. We put these two strips of pine batten along the ridge where we've got this small flat section. You can see right back here. I want to put some tongue and groove boards along there, and in order to do that I need to put counter battens along. So they will be down about 20mm further, so we'll put those on. And also I need to make sure that we've got an option for the cupboards that go out into the loft spaces to somehow work the exposed studs in a way that we can kind of fix into those, either hinging off them or more than likely just have a nice hatch, insulated hatch that pushes into the hole, and then some sliding bolts into the studs either side. So the whole thinking behind this method is a little combination really between standard dry lining and an architect who I've kind of read about in the past called Walter Segal or Siegel, not sure, and I think he was in the States, and he came up with this sort of building design approach for affordable self-build. And in that you kind of use construction materials in the size that you buy them. So if you buy 8-foot by 4-foot sheets of plywood or OSB or plasterboard, they are used at that size. So everything is scaled, so you have minimal cuts, minimal wastage, but you've also got much less skilled labour needed. So there's no like wet trades, there's no plastering or bricklaying or anything like that. It was a lot of kind of bolting of pieces of timber for the structure. The foundations weren't wet poured, I think they were kind of concrete foundation pads. And it was a really affordable method, but in that I think the internal decor was full sheets like we've done here, but where you had the joins, I don't know if it was plasterboard or drywall or like ply lined, but all the joins had a strip of timber, so you kind of had this panelled effect. So rather than just having random strips of timber which are clearly covering a join, we thought the idea of using a faux rafter or a faux truss kind of kills two birds with one stone. It's covering the joint, but it's also bringing some character back into the room. So we're not going over the top with them. We've got 3 in this room, so it's literally only where the joins are. 1, 2, 3, possibly a 4th one by the wall there, but I don't think we need it. And then another 3 beyond the wall, so 2 in the office end and 1 on the landing. So they're more like regularly spaced trusses. And then on the walls, we're going to do a similar thing, but probably more regular. So we'll put a more like a panelled wall at the bottom, but again, it'll be covering the joins. So let me know what you think about it. It's not too late, we're doing it the weekend, so we can always change plan, but I'd like to hear what your thoughts are. So I do understand that at the end of this, we may wish we'd got it skimmed, but I like to experiment with different methods, and if it's something we might be able to use in the workshop or an extension or something in the future, or just a garden room where, you know, it's a quicker and maybe easier DIY method of doing it, then so be it, and it might help some other people out on here. But anyway, loads going on this weekend. We're probably going to get close to decorating. We've got paneling to do, all this timber work to do. So there's lots going on, loads of videos to film and hopefully edit when I get a chance. So stay tuned for those, and remember, if you can, do it yourself, and we'll see you in the next video.